Hello folks, I hope you're having a good week so far. If you'd like to support the channel as we go into some more hobby nightmares, I have one cool thing to show you, and that is a brand new YouTube channel to do with me doing things on the internet. This is the Northern Exile Gaming channel. It's been up and running for a few weeks. I've left it just to germinate on its own for a while, you know, just to run along and do its own thing. I'm really enjoying doing lots of Let's Play content over there and discussing video games and RPGs and tabletop games and things like that over there. So, if you're into the more gaming side of things, then that's the place to go. If you want more of me, you know, there's a video almost every other day as I go through separate different games. We've just finished Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater over there, and we're about to start Dragon Age Origins, so that is going to be really cool, and I'm really looking forward to doing that. I've also got a bit of a ranty video coming later on today about Dragon Age itself, Dragon Age Origins. So if you want more of me, that's the place to go. Support that channel, and yeah, let's get on with our hobby nightmares, shall we? Who is first today? Let me have a little look-see on the docket here. It is Julian. How you doing, Julian? He says, "Hi North, how are you doing? I'm fine, thank you. My name is Julian, and I am 18 years old and a Warhammer player. I have been a great enjoyer of your content over the past few months, and I'm happy to give you an interesting story to add to your content." Well, at 18, man, I hope you've not come across anything really bad, but let's jump in. "I am from California, and I am a casual Warhammer player. I started in the 8th edition with Eldar, and moved to Grey Knights in 9th, Man of Culture. I doff my cap to you, sir. And have ended up as an Imperial Fists player in 10th. I've been focusing a lot on painting my Imperial Fists to be gritty and more grimy and really messy all over, and I'm really enjoying the feel of the army. Dude, why didn't you just do Iron Warriors? If that's what you like. The same army, just gritty and more manly." I'm going to get a lot of flack from Imperial Fists players now. "I'll post some minis down below because I think you might enjoy them." Oh, did you? No, you didn't. You didn't post any. "I've recently started to play more competitive Warhammer 40k and was at my second regional tournament at my local store when my nightmare occurred. I want to make a statement before and after that both of these players are normally really calm and have shown remorse for the incident that occurred. I have always found them to be a joy to be around most of the time." Okay, cool. "The showdown involved the Tyranid player and the tournament organizer for our tournament who played Chaos Marines, and has been one of the top Chaos Space Marine players in the world for a while now. During the first round, our tournament organizer paired everybody randomly, and I was assigned to play against a friend who plays Grey Knights. The tournament organizer got the bye game. Those of you who don't realise what a bye is, it basically means you skip the round and you're straight through to the next round. You got lucky, basically. You don't have to fight in this round. You can go to the next one. And the Tyranids player who had shown up engaged him in a game during the 3-hour period in which he had to wait for his competitive game. About an hour into the game, my Imperial Fists were being absolutely demolished. The game wasn't going in my favour at all. Then an argument started between the tournament organiser and the Nids player. I decided to ignore it, as most others did, and finished my turn. During the process, the argument reached a catalyst and became a shouting match, which attracted a lot of attention. The tournament organiser pulled me away from his game, shouting that somebody else could measure a certain measurement, which the Tyranids player seemed to agree on. Since my opponent was currently moving his minis from Deep Strike, I decided that I could go over to the other table and make a quick measurement for them, and I asked both players what had occurred. They were in conflict about a charge and pile-in roll, since the tournament organiser was trying to pile in one of his raptors 3 inches to get within range of Abaddon's reroll's aura. Abaddon's aura was poking through a building, and on the other side of the building, just a smidge. I asked both players where the raptor's original position was, and the TO told me its location. The Tyranids player did not make any claim that this was a falsehood, and I continued with my attempts to make a ruling. Remember this, because this is important. I just want to jump in here for a second. Why is a tournament organizer getting an 18-year-old man? I'm going to be honest with you, dude. Don't take this the wrong way, Julian. I'm going to rephrase that. Why is a tournament organizer, a grown man, getting an 18-year-old boy to come over and rule in one of his games? I know technically you're an adult, but you listen. When I was 18, I may have technically been an adult, but I was not an adult, right? I was a moron. But anyway, moving on. I checked the 3-inch move, and found that the Raptor could barely touch Abaddon's aura, but at the cost of not being able to fight that turn due to not being in base-to-base contact with a base contact fighting model. Simple enough. At this proclamation, the Tyranid player erupted in complaints that his opponent had lied and that the Raptor was actually further away in its initial standing point. At this point in time, my opponent had finished his movement, and he came over, decided to measure the Raptor's move himself, and came to the exact same ruling that I did. This was not taken super well, and the assistant tournament organizer, a Death Guard player who had played many tournaments and, like our tournament organizer, was a very high-ranking competitive player, came over to resolve the issue. He made the exact same ruling as both myself and my opponent, and the argument escalated further. Both my opponent and I gave up, as we had a game to play, so we went to continue it, though slightly perturbed about the shouting. At this point in time, the manager on shift at the store came up the stairs to break up the argument, and our tournament organizer worked with the employee to get the Tyranid player a refund for his game and get him out of the store. After the Tyranid player had left, mind with much shouting the entire way out, the tournament organizer left the store to get a drink and calm down. If you thought that this was the end of everything, though, you are very mistaken, because the worst is not yet upon us. Within an hour or so, the Tyranid player decided to further the argument on Discord, accusing the tournament organizer of abusing his tournament organizer's powers and cheating. He then further said that 3 parties had ruled on the match and in his favour, which was blatantly false. We ruled in the tournament organizer's favour because the tournament organizer was correct, although he wouldn't have been in combat range, which he accepted. Our tournament organizer responded by suggesting that the 3 of us could key in on our own if we wished, and told the NIDS player to shut up and stop wasting everybody's time. After a certain point, I made the decision to submit myself to a blasting on Discord, and mentioned to the entire server what the ruling that all 3 players made was, in addition to mentioning that, no matter how much you didn't like it, it's simply a game, and that I hoped that the entire situation could be resolved in the best way possible. This all occurred during the second round of the tournament, where I received a truly punishing stomping by a local Space Wolves player. At about the third round of the game, somebody else on our community's Discord server pointed out to the Tyranid player that it seemed that he was trying to start some nonsense. He also pointed out that the Chaos Space Marine player had a reputation for being a very friendly, kind, and helpful player, and is known for his honesty across the community. He then proceeded to quote me and mentioned that it is just a game, and told him to chill out. The Tyranids player decided to end the thing, complaining that he shouldn't have to submit evidence to be heard, then proceeded to state that he was disappointed in us and left. This is somebody who has gone so hard on what he believes to be true that when he's proven wrong, he thinks that it's so humiliating that he needs to double down and retreat into his own form of reality to escape it. I've known people like this, right? Again, both players are often really calm and a joy to be around, and I believe the NIDS player was having a bad day and simply just really wanted to win the game to turn his day around. I don't think there was any extreme malintent and just a perfect storm situation. Mate, for an 18-year-old, you write beautifully well. You write beautifully well for an 18-year-old. Well done to you, sir. The situation has seemed to be resolved, which is very good. As for the tournament, I got paired up 3 times against melee armies and didn't get the first turn in any of my 3 games. Oh dear. My 3rd game ended on the first turn due to an Oath of Moment Death Guard Rhino somehow surviving full shooting from 2 Land Raiders, hitting on 2s, and then fire an Overwatch from one of the Land Raiders somehow. That being said, I'm running a casual Space Marine list at the moment, so expecting to win against the meta might be a bit of a high of an expectation. Double Land Raider Spearhead just isn't super effective. Yeah, but it looks cool. It looks cool. Get a third one. Get a third bad boy and whack it in there. That's a Spearhead. That is my nightmare, North. I hope you found the story interesting. I wish you the best, and may the Emperor shine his light upon you. Thank you very much, man. What a nicely written hobby nightmare. Very nicely written. Right. Next we have Sammy. I'm going to have a little drink here. Ah, lovely. Dearest North, thank you very much for calling me that. I'm emailing you on a warm summer evening with a yummy beverage at my desk. Good man, well done. Today, I will be regaling you with the story of how I feel that the hobby changed and saved my life. Okay. Can you please tell the sun where you are, Sammy, to come out over here? Because, I don't know, comment section down below. Have you guys had a good summer so far in the UK, if you're in the UK? Please don't rub it in, Americans, that you have really nice weather. I know. Anyway, moving on. This story starts a little bit of an off-topic, but don't worry. The hobby will quickly become the centre of the story. Now, I believe it is important to clarify before we start that I have ADHD, also known as Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder. Most people will hear this and either think, hey, I found it hard to focus in class 2, so I must have it as well, or roll their eyes and think, so what? You can't sit still, big deal. Now, having done plenty of research, it is important for people to understand that ADHD is way due to the condition rather than... Oh, sorry, I skipped a line there. That's me being a very bad reader. That's not Sammy's fault. Okay. Now, having done plenty of research, it is important for people to understand that ADHD is a lot more than that. Now, I'm not making excuses for anybody with it who behaves poorly or lazily, but I also think that it is important for people to understand that and help people that behave in a certain way due to the condition, rather than ridiculing them for it. Some examples of problems people with ADHD struggle with are difficulty regulating emotions, for example, getting upset more easily to the point of losing control of themselves. Executive dysfunction. This is when people lack a long-term dopamine system, making it much harder to complete long-term goals in favour for instant gratification, such as playing video games. They easily get distracted, and this is not as trivial as it sounds, as even the slightest of things can distract people with ADHD, making academics extremely difficult, and often resulting in kids with the condition getting punished for something out of their control. Difficulty controlling impulses. This can make saving money rather difficult, and can cause verbal diarrhea, which is definitely true in my case. Hyperactivity. This can cause people to not be able to sit still, all the way to the worst cases calling people to want to run around making weird noises like a melt. I was a strange child. I like that. Now, why am I telling you all of this? Well, I think it is important with some of the stories of what my school experience was like for you to understand what the hobby did for me socially. For many children with the condition, it is very difficult to make friends, especially due to the emotional dysregulation. I'm so proud that I read that word first time. Bang, dysregulation. Get in there, son. Due to the emotional dysregulation, calling them to be singled out as weird. For me, this was definitely true. Now, North, we all went through bullying as nerds. In my case, I made friends with the wrong group, and the people who should have been my friends were my bullies. Oh no. That's even worse, man. You don't even realise it's happening. Now, I once had to sit in with a kid who thought he was being bullied and he wasn't, right? This happened quite a while ago now, a couple of years ago, during my training, and yeah, he thought he was being bullied, but his friends were just being boys, right? They weren't hitting him, they were all like, having a go at each other in like a really jovial way, like not having a go, not being nasty, but this kid just took it really personally and insisted that he was being bullied when he wasn't. But that's a really hard conversation to have. To sit down with a kid and say, no, you're not being bullied, sorry. Like, your friends are being your friends, and they're having a go at each other too. All the time. Like, I know, because you're in my class, I see it happen all the time, right? This is what's happening here. Is anything else other than what you're telling me? Has anything else been happening? No? Then, from what you've told me, you need to just calm down, right? Or you're going to lose your friends, and they care about you very much. And his friends did come in and say, yeah, man, like, we're just joking around. We really do care about you. Like, we're really sorry, you know? And that, anyway. But that's the only situation I've come across in school when I've had to do something like that. But I knew a few people at my own high school who were friends with people who would run them down and bully them all the time. There is a time when it crosses the line into, not being nice. Anyway, moving on. Sorry, man, I'm taking over your hobby nightmare. For 2 years in secondary school, most days I would get my food slapped out of my hands, food and drink put in my hair, pushed over on the hard concrete, and punched in the arms. It got so bad that at my lowest, I would flinch when I heard footsteps behind me. That was after a few weeks, where someone from the group would sneak off and run straight into my back, sending me sprawling onto the floor and leaving me with bruises, scrapes, and limping. I once had a piece of chewing gum put in my hair, which I had to cut out when I got home, and I didn't tell my parents about. Now I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I, go back or tell the teachers? Or just leave? Now, as North can probably tell you, schools in the UK are terrible at dealing with bullying, and mine was no exception. Yeah, they are. They are. Yeah. Mine was really good, actually. Mine was really good. Because we had several teachers who were men, and old school men. Like, they were cool. They were really cool. Like you could speak to them about stuff, and they were like manly men, but also really cool. And whenever any bullying happened, they would come down in like a ton of bricks. Like they would haul people out of class and just send them home with a note, and then they call the parents and be like, "Yeah, they're not coming back. See you in a few weeks." That kind of thing. They would just not tolerate it at all. But that was the exception, not the rule. Most schools I've worked in and been around, especially these days, are terrible at handling bullying. Because they try and talk to bullies. Oh, please don't do that. We've gone over this so many times. Yeah, the reason why you've gone over this so many times is because it doesn't work. Send them home. Exclude them. Send them home. Send them home. So yeah, we'll see you in a few weeks. Bye. But you can't send my child home. I've got work to do. Yeah, but he's not coming here. Get a childminder. I don't care. But he's not traumatizing any more of my kids, so off you go. Right? That's what you do. After repeatedly reporting the issues, nothing had changed, except that my resolve in the system had dissolved. So why didn't I fight back? I was a small kid. Yes, at first I fought back. I would throw kicks and pushes, but nothing worked against a group when one of the lads was 6 foot at the age of 12, and almost double my weight. Why didn't I leave the group? Well, there were two main reasons. I tried, but no other people in the school shared any interest with me or even wanted to associate with me, as I had gathered a reputation for being a bit of a victim. Secondly, whenever I attempted to leave the group, that they would hunt me around the school like a pack of wolves looking for me. So, when I say there was no escape, I mean it. As you can probably imagine, this made me very low, to the point where in my second year of secondary school, I was having thoughts of self-deletion. Again, this is not another child that the school systems in the UK have failed. Just failed. Completely failed. However, there was one rainbow in the storm. Warhammer. I had always looked in passing at the notorious Games Workshop store, as my mum would drag me around town doing women's things, such as buying clothes and other weird stuff. However, I would not go in there until one fateful day, when I was ill. My single mum, she's not single anymore, so North, you can go away, okay? Hey, I'm happily spoken for now as well, thank you very much. But fair enough. So my mum called my granddad to take care of me, as I was lying in bed and feeling like Sir Horatio Nelson at the Battle of Trafalgar. My granddad gave me some Calpol, and I felt I was right as rain. Okay, cool, brilliant. Now, this absolute baller of a man said, screw the rules, and took me into town when I was ill, and bought me a box of Space Marine Scouts. I proceeded to rush home with him and build and paint the most awful looking Scout you've ever seen. Blobs of dry white paint for eyes, and texture paint everywhere. However, I was hooked. Fast forward about 6 years, I was in the last year of school, with a few boxes of models and nobody to play with. I would stare longingly at videos of people playing Warhammer, wishing I could join in the fun. Alas, not soon after, a hobby store opened, and round the corner from my house no less. This was my chance. I built a small army and set off to the store for an intro game. I would meet many new people there over the course of my time in that store, and learn the rules of 9th edition 40k, and it was a blast. Fast forward 2 years, I am now 18, and I've made so many friends for life through this hobby. I trust them all with my life, and I love them to bits. But I would never tell them that so I could keep it on the down low. They are honestly the kindest and yet the biggest load of idiots that I know. To give you some examples of the kind of lads we are, I showed 2 of them a picture of my first girlfriend a while back, and they were both utterly shocked at how good looking she was. They both exchanged a look and stated in unison that the only explanation for her to like me being that I must have a 12-inch something or other, as my face looks like a oh, sorry, this is just so British. This is so British. And this is what I mean by male friends. This is how they talk to each other, right? If one of your friends has a good-looking girlfriend and he shows you a picture of her, you're like, "Oh, did you manage that?" You know, all the time. And stated in unison that the only explanation for her to like me being that I must have a 12-inch something or other, and as my face looks like a slapped ass. Sorry, that's me just... I've got myself a hiccups now, one sec. Oh my god. And I have the personality of a door. I really love my friends. North, I honestly think that without the hobby and such an amazing... I'm going to hiccup again. There we go. I honestly think that without the hobby and such an amazing group of people to support me, I would not be here today. I think this is a good story to demonstrate how the hobby can be such a force for good in everybody's lives. P.S. You're doing amazing, and I love your content. So keep up the work, my man. Thank you very much, dude. Thank you very much. And curse you for giving me hiccups. Anyway. Kaelin says, "Greetings, North. Kaelin here again. First off, let me thank you for reading my previous nightmare. In reading, you inquired about how I got out of my loneliness and got to a place of well-being. To be honest, I have attempted to write this out 3 times. Each time, it has boiled down to me telling my life story. I would ramble on for pages, explaining how or why I was the way that I was. But that never seemed to answer your inquiry of how I got out of it. Well, I'm going to use my mantra to help. You can have reasons for who you are, but they should never be excuses. I say that as a part of my ongoing introspection. I can analyse how I got to where I am and learn how to grow past it, but never use it as a reason to stop growing or to give up." Mate, that is probably one of the best paragraphs I've ever read out on Hobby Nightmares. I'm going to read that again, right? Okay. I'm going to use my mantra to help. You can have reasons for who you are, but they should never be excuses. I say that as a part of my ongoing introspection. I can analyse how I got to where I am and learn how to grow past it, but never use it as a reason to stop growing or to give up. Dude, that is black and white. Put that on a bumper sticker. Now let me preface this. I am a work in progress. Growth and healing are never complete and always changing. I agree, man. You just need to trend positive. Trend upwards. That's all you need to do. Fail upwards. I have had setbacks and had to start over several times. I know what worked for me will not work for everybody, but if it helps even one person, it will have served its purpose. My major issues were loneliness, low self-worth, a lack of confidence, and outsider syndrome. All of these things tie to one another and create a feedback loop. One negative trait would reinforce another and create a cage for my happiness. The first thing I had to do was reevaluate how I saw myself. The low self-worth was a large driver for all of my problems, and I needed to change that. I don't remember what the catalyst was, but I remember needing to start looking at myself as a worthy person, that I have positive traits, and I have always been a cynical person, so this doesn't come easily. It took time, but once I actually started to believe what I was telling myself, I noticed that others acted differently around me. It started a positive feedback loop. Raising my self-worth raised my confidence, that in turn affected how I interacted with others, and that lowered my loneliness. I know it seems cliche and cheesy, but it was simple. It was as simple as looking at myself in the mirror each morning and saying one positive thing to the person staring back at me. I felt stupid when I first started doing it, but over time it became easier. The first time I started this, it took almost 6 months before I started to believe the things I was telling myself. Wow, okay. Cool. Once I started to value who I was, my confidence kind of soared. I started talking to people. I stopped caring about if they would like me or not. I knew that they wouldn't be as harsh on me as I had been on myself in the past. This led to friendships and eventually relationships. These friends and relationships reinforced my view of me. If these people think I'm worth being around, then I must have value. I never went far enough to be conceited. I still realised that I had flaws, but these flaws can be worked on and I can improve who I am. This took a very long time, and the personal growth was in minor increments. I started about 1 year after my previous nightmare, so about the time I was 20. I had 2 major setbacks along the way, a nervous breakdown and a brush with self-deletion. I would get to a point and then something would happen and my self-esteem would take a hit. I would spiral and fall into depression. By the time I was in my mid-30s, I had developed a good routine of introspection and would notice the triggers and work through them before they became problems. Each time I slipped, I would create a floor at which I wouldn't fall below. I created a support structure that I could lean on when things got bad, so I never fall below a floor I have created. There are a few ups and downs, but through the long, hard journey of life, I have reached a place of relative balance and peace. You might have noticed that I haven't touched on my 4th major flaw. For me, this is my white whale, outsider syndrome. I still struggle with it to this day. I honestly feel like I don't belong. It's not always a strong feeling, and most of the time I can kind of ignore it, even though it is always there in the back of my mind. Outsider syndrome is different from imposter syndrome. I don't feel like I am faking or that I don't deserve it, it's just a lack of connection to people. If I'm doing something in the group, I don't have a sense of community with them. I feel their connection to others, but not to me. It is super hard to describe if you haven't felt it, but this is where the hobby comes in. I do find my connections to things. I can connect to inanimate objects and activities. When I'm connected to these things, I don't feel like an outsider. I have the strongest connection when I'm creating things. I first discovered this when I tried woodworking several years ago. The act of building something with my hands and watching it take shape gave a sense of community to me. It is weird to describe. The act of something forged bonds inside of me. Even though I was alone, I felt a sense of community, that I was connected to all other woodworkers out there and the techniques that they were working on too. This translated to miniatures when I found the hobby again after several years. I got the same sense of connection in putting together and painting minis that I did when I was building tables. The satisfaction I got was the same as when I have connected with other people. The meditative state that it brings me gives me a huge inner peace. The same peace I found when I met my wife and when I play with my kids. It is true happiness. It might not be perfect, but it is the closest thing I have found to help me deal with this really big issue. If you read this, North, thank you. And to anybody listening who needs to hear this, there is always hope. No matter how far down the pit you are, there is always light. Take it from somebody who has fell as hard down the pit as you can go, like me. There is always an up, even if you can't see it. There is always somebody pulling for you, even if you can't hear them. If I can do it, so can you. The first step is trying and not giving up. For those that need to hear it, I believe in you, even if you don't. Thank you, Kaelin. And that, my friends, is why we do Hobby Nightmares. Yeah? That's why we're here. To have days like this, where we have some laughs, but like the serious message of Hobby Nightmares is there, stringent, all the way through the stories that we're sharing about our lives in this wonderful hobby. Alright? So, I'll be back tomorrow and on Friday for more Hobby Nightmares. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll speak to you very soon. Have a good one. Bye now.